Customer called us out on this dryer. His complaint was that when you have the power off and it's plugged in, it would the drum would turn, as you can see. And so I knew that the relay was going to be the problem. This is the motor relay on this board. Fortunately, I had to order these relays from China, so it took a month, but he was willing to wait. He was going on vacation. These are the burn up contacts once I replaced the relay. The board costs over $200 shipped, and normally what I do is I charge probably about $240, $260 for this type of repair. So it's very cost effective for the customer. So before I get started, what I make sure is just that everything's protected. I put down a towel and the clipboard just for anything that's going to be hot, that's going to be set down, because you just don't want to damage the customer's property or anything like that. So I use my hot knife to cut through the back plastic cover here. Use a Sharpie ahead of time to mark the lines so that I know where to cut and I'm not just guessing at it. I usually give myself a little wider and longer spacing so that it exposes not just the relay but just a little border around it, just to get a little wiggle room in there. You definitely want to clean the hot knife after you're done with it, and I use a steel wool and get it red hot, and that will help just to get all the plastic residue off of it. Then I use a flathead screwdriver, take off the plastic. Comes out real easy, and there you have the exposed silicone that we still have to take out. And for that, what I use is a blunt scraper tool, or plastic scrapers I found as a set. I think they're for like car decal removal, that type of thing. You don't want to use anything sharp on these. I use isopropyl alcohol, 91% or higher, and it just helps to break down the silicone, so you can clean the pins and the pads, so you can get to the solder a little easier. And here's what it looks like once I've exposed those pins and pads. And you can see I don't get all the silicone out. It's just not necessary. Basically all the silicone around the pads that I'm going to be desoldering. And from the top, you want to make sure that you release that relay from the silicone. It grips it pretty good. So I do the same thing. I go up there with the blunt plastic scraper tool, and I just separate the silicone from the side of the relay. I just press down towards the PCB on all sides. And when I'm using the desoldering gun, I always check to see which nozzle. I have 4 different nozzles. Which one will work best with the pin and pad I'm working with. And you want to make sure that the hole's large enough to fit over the pin all the way down to the pad once you desolder. So I use my Hakko desoldering gun to desolder these pins. There's 4 of them, of course, and I use new solder, get it down in there, and helps it melt the old solder so I can desolder more easily. Sometimes I will kind of vibrate it a bit, shake it a little left to the right to get the solder out from the joint, especially towards the center of the joint. That's the hardest part to get. And when you're done, you can use vice grips or pliers and just work that relay out. You have to just kind of wiggle it back and forth quite a few times to release it from the silicone, and it will pop out. Don't force it though, because you can break something. Alright, I got the new relay in. I'm going to go ahead and resolder it. I just use my desoldering gun to solder with. You can use a regular soldering iron if you want, but just easier this way. And what I use also in this case, there's a small screwdriver I put underneath the relay just to support it so it won't fall out while I'm soldering. But you can also just bend the pins, a couple of pins, to make it hold. So I got the new relay in, soldering looked good. I tested it out and it worked like a champ. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time then.